Drops of rain splattered about them. Bridget checked her stride, and looked at the little boy. "And did you come out with no warm clothes? What have you done with your brat?" Brian stared blankly up into her stern face, then looked around him. A few yards distant, crumpled and forgotten, lay his brat, the heavy cloak that was a necessity in the damp climate. Until Bridget mentioned it, he had been unaware of the cold, but suddenly the red wool looked inviting. He retrieved it quickly, and handed it to her to pin around him with the silver brooch that was his only personal wealth. The wind, which seemed to have been waiting until the child was snugly wrapped, responded with a rising howl that sent Brian and Bridget plunging headlong down the slope together, anxious to get the geese to their pen, and themselves under a roof. They trotted hand in hand through the rain, until they caught up with the scattered flock, grazing in the marshy grass at the river's edge. Bridget, twice Brian's age and size, moved after them with the dogged persistence of one who knows a task will get done somehow. Brian darted about like quicksilver, second-guessing the nimble geese, turning and manoeuvring them with a skill beyond his years. To Bridget his antics were annoying. She was afraid he would scatter the birds, and delay them both in the increasingly chill rain. But Brian was not herding geese. In the well-lit inner landscape of his mind, he was a general, marshalling his troops, wheeling and driving them with the expertise of a battlefield veteran. His imagination quickly reduced Bridget to the role of second in command, so that he was angered when she guided the geese according to some plan of her own. "Not that way!" he shouted to her. "Take them up the path through the trees." Open country was not safe. His army could be spotted too easily by enemy scouts. "And lose half of them in the woods before we get them home," Bridget countered indignantly. "Your mother would have my hide for the pot. Do come along, Brian, and quit playing around. The both of us will be soaked before we get these stupid birds penned." Actually, Brian was right. The path through the trees was shorter and more direct, and once the geese were headed home, their awakening memory of grain was sufficient to keep them going in the right direction. But Bridget had never seen them taken by any course but across the meadow, so that was the way they must go. Flapping her sodden skirt at them, clucking and shooing, she drove them before her, as Brian watched in frustration. "She thinks I don't know anything," he fumed to himself, wiping a lock of dripping red hair from his freckled forehead. "Nobody ever listens to me." He kicked at a small stone that lay invitingly near his foot, then turned to gaze once more at his chosen line of march. He shrugged his shoulders, and set off in the wake of Bridget and the flock. "Next time," he promised himself under his breath, "I'll bring them my own way." The thatched roofs of home glowed golden through the rain. Set in a magnificent grove of oak and pine, Boru had been built by the princes of the Dalcash on the ruins of an old ring fort, or dune, utilizing its earthen wall and deep ditch as the perimeter of their personal compound. In keeping with his status as tribal king, Kennedy's round timber and wattle dwelling was the largest of the buildings. It occupied a central position opposite the gate, surrounded by the homes of his noble kinsmen and domestic buildings and pens for stock. Beyond the wall were the farming lands of the Dalcash, and the cottages of the ploughmen. Boru was almost a town, and as large a concentration of people as one could find outside the monasteries and the port cities built by the Norsemen from the distant shores of the place they called Lachlan. The geese broke into a waddling run as they drew near the gate of the compound. All winter Brian's mother had fattened them in a brush and timber pen, feeding them on sprouted grain and bread soaked in barley water. That memory called strongly to them now. "You feed these birds better than you feed me," Kennedy liked to complain to his wife, but she always had the same smiling answer. "You will get it all eventually, and bad grain and stale bread are much improved by being converted into fat goose flesh."